Hello friends, welcome to StudyIQ. In this lecture, we will discuss Economic Survey Chapter 5. We have already started with Chapter 5 in the previous video and the link of this previous video is available on my Facebook page. Also, the PDF is available on my Facebook page. Today, in this lecture, we will continue our discussion on the Chapter 5, Volume 1 of the Economic Survey. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the challenges, or we said that there are mainly 4 challenges that can put India into a late converger stall. Among the 4 reasons, we have already discussed 2 reasons. The first one is hyperglobalization. The risk of hyperglobalization means that India being a late converger, the trading environment is very different. So for the early convergers, globalization was benefited because they were early in the convergence process and they could completely avail all the benefits of the globalization process. But India being a late converger, we were not able to reap the benefits of globalization to the full extent. So that is one major risk. And the second one is impeded structural transformation. Ideally, in an economy, the structural transformation should happen from low to high productive areas, which means that the resources must shift from low productive areas to highly productive areas, and also more resources must be dedicated to the highly productive areas or those areas or sectors which have more potential for growth. This is the ideal transformation that should happen in an economy. But in case of India, what has happened is that from the low productive areas, resources has been mobilized to marginally less informal or marginally more productive areas. So the resources were not mobilized to high productive areas, but from the low productive areas, marginally higher productive, which means they are not highly productive, but compared to low productive areas, they are little better. That is all. So this is the structural transformation that happened in case of India. So this is the second risk. These two were discussed in detail in the previous lecture. So now we will go to the third risk. Third one is human capital regression. Here human capital regression means that there is an increasing gap between available skills and required skills. So there are certain available skills and there is a different set of required skills. So there is a gap between these two. Available skills does not meet the demand or the requirement. So this is the problem in case of India. And this is due to lack of quality oriented intervention by the government. The government has not taken measures in order to tackle this problem. Now coming to the early convergers. Early convergers like the Japan, Korea, China, what they had is they had educated but relatively unskilled labor. So in case of early convergers, they had education but skills were lacking. But coming to late convergers like India, there is a twin challenge. So what is this twin challenge? First of all, they do not have quality basic education. Basic education might be there, but there is no quality for the basic education. And secondly, required skills of human skill and capital is also not there. Required skills are also missing. Now coming to the early convergers. We said that early convergers had education but skills were deficient. But what was the situation then? They were early convergers. So during that period of time, they were able to deploy these skills in the manufacturing sector. So even though they had limited skills, they were able to deploy them in effective manner using the education they had. But we are already late convergers. So one limitation with the late convergers is that there has been rapid technological development. Now the situation has changed. The economic scenario has changed. There has been rapid technological development. And due to this rapid technological development, what is required? High levels of human skill is required. So the problem with India here is that we do not have quality basic education. Even though there is basic education in the economy, the quality is a question. So quality basic education is very necessary for structural reformation. And also required skills. When we talk about human skills, we must understand the technological development also. There has been rapid technological development in the economy. and because of this technological development, the requirement or the demand is very high. So we face this twin problems. In the case of early convergers, the transformation from farm to factory was possible because of the coincidence of growth and structural transformation based on comparative advantage. Because they were early convergers, they were better than the other economies. So because of the comparative advantage, they were able to perform well. But that opportunity is not available for the late convergers like India. Now, what can be done in order to overcome this problem? India needs to spend on ensuring basic education and also providing skills. With regard to basic education, skills, higher education, etc., the government needs to spend more money. Both quality and also the quantity is important. Why? Because quality will ensure transformation, structural transformation. Quantity is important because of the demographic dividend available in the country. We should be able to utilize the demographic dividend to its fuller extent. So that is why quality and also quantity is important from the Indian context. Now, in order to understand the level of quality that we have in our basic education, the primary school enrollment is near universal for both boys and girls at the elementary level. But the educational outcomes are less desirable. So, enrollment is there, enrollment is high, it is near universal. But what about the educational outcomes? It is less. So, we can say that enrollment has been benefited or this is successful only if there are outcomes. You are doing something but there is no outcome or productivity out of it. So you cannot say that it has been successful. Something becomes successful only when there is proper outcome or productivity out of it. So enrollment is there but no proper outcome. So in short, we can say that human capital regression is induced by technological process. And secondly, there has been a failure to provide even basic educational needs. So basic skill education, etc., they are not provided. So this is the challenge that we are facing. The technological process will favor the skilled human capital. When there is improvement in technology, who will be getting more opportunities? Those who are skilled. So with an increase in technology, there is no doubt that opportunities will increase. But what is the problem? It favors the skilled human capital. Those who are unskilled, those who are uneducated, they will not be given much opportunities. So that is the problem. Now coming to two important terms. One is learning poverty count and learning poverty gap, LPC and LPG. The first one, learning poverty count. So what is LPC? LPC measures the number of children who do not meet the basic learning benchmark. Here, educational opportunities may be available, but these children are not able to meet the basic learning benchmark. But coming to LPG, that is learning poverty gap, this takes into account how far each student is from the benchmark. So there will be a benchmark and LPC measures how many children are not able to meet this benchmark, and LPG, that is learning poverty gap, measures what is the distance between the benchmark and the student at present. So we can say that the average scores of the student and also the benchmark, there is a difference, and this difference is what is measured under the learning poverty gap. The last factor impeding to the late convergence relates to agriculture. So fourth factor is agricultural stress that can lead to late convergence stall. For an economy, in order to undergo a structural transformation, agricultural productivity must rise. So this is necessary for an economy to undergo a structural transformation. Why is agricultural productivity very important? First of all, with an increase in the population, the economy must be able to feed the growing population. So the food should be available to growing population. If the agricultural productivity doesn't increase, there will be food shortages in the economy. And secondly, agricultural labor productivity has to increase if there has to be an increase in the agricultural productivity. And it is seen that there has been a divergence on agricultural productivity with regard to the developing countries. What is meant by divergence? We have already seen what is economic convergence. So what is meant by convergence? Convergence means the process of developing countries catching up with developed countries. So here underdeveloped countries are trying to catch with developed countries. But in case of agriculture, it is a different picture. Divergence is happening. This is just the opposite of convergence. So underdeveloped countries or developing countries are not catching up with the developed countries. So this is the trend that is seen in the agricultural productivity. So here we will see that the growth rates in agriculture for richer countries are being consistently higher, but in case of developing countries the growth rate is slower or less. So in case of India, the agricultural productivity growth has been stagnant. It is roughly 3% over the last 30 years. So in 30 years it has been 3%. There has been no improvement, which means that the growth is stagnant. So therefore we can say that there has been a divergence in the agricultural productivity growth. There are many reasons accounting for it, but primarily agriculture is vulnerable to temperature changes or temperature increase, and secondly Indian agriculture is heavily dependent on monsoon. So we have no proper irrigation facilities. These two are basic reasons for the stagnation. If we look at the analysis, we will find that if climate change raises the temperatures and the variability of the rainfall, farmers' revenue could decline by 20 to 25% in non-irrigated areas. So the climate change and decreasing rainfall or variability in the rainfall is going to affect the farmers' revenue. So when farmers' revenue are in distress, it means that the agricultural productivity is coming down. It is estimated that 20 to 25% of the revenues will come down. So farmers will be in distress. That is one problem. Secondly, agricultural productivity will come down, which means there will be food shortages in the economy. Thirdly, this food shortages will increase the price of food commodities in the market, leading to food inflation in the economy. And again, because there is shortage of food commodities available in the market, we will have to depend on import for our food requirements, and this will worsen the balance of payment crisis in the economy. And as a result of this, the demand for the currency, Indian rupee, will come down, leading to depreciation of rupee. The concept of depreciation of rupee has been discussed in detail in a previous lecture. You can find the link of this lecture on my Facebook page. So coming back to our topic, all this can happen as a result of decrease in the agricultural productivity. So a distress in the agricultural sector will not only affect the food security of the people, but we must understand that in India, more than 50% of its population are directly dependent on agriculture. So their source of income will be in distress. The economy will face a food shortage. So everything is associated with it. Now what can be done? If the agricultural momentum is not released, or if importance is not given to the agricultural sector, the structural transformation will not work out for India. So if the structural transformation has to work out, this pressing issues related to agriculture needs to be sorted out. First of all, technological development should be brought into agriculture. So technology can increase the productivity. Increasing productivity in agriculture will address many issues. One is food shortage, because when the productivity is more, there will be adequate supply of food commodities in the market. This will solve the problem of food shortage. When adequate supply is there, in order to meet the demand, this will reduce the food inflation. The prices will come down. And thirdly, the human capital dependence on the agriculture will come down. With the use of technology, lesser human capital would be required. So with lesser human capital, the rest of the human capital can find employment opportunities in some other sectors. So this will lead to structural reformation in the economy. Again, irrigation of agricultural land is very important. We have seen that because of lack of irrigation, or because Indian agriculture is mainly dependent on monsoons, the farm revenues are lessening. So if more irrigation is done on agricultural land, it will increase the productivity. So this is another solution. Then other issues like land holding issues, better price recovery, etc. can also be addressed properly in order to increase the farm revenues. But here our focus is climate change induced agricultural stress. So this needs to be addressed so that agricultural sector will improve, and that will lead to structural transformation in the economy. Now coming to the lessons for India. First of all, regarding the structural transformation, we have seen that the resources must move from less productive areas to higher productive areas. But in case of India, what has happened or what is happening is that the resources are moving from low productive areas to informal sectors that are marginally less formal or only marginally more productive. So this is the late convergence stall that India must avoid. So the focus must be from less productive areas to high productive areas, not to marginally high productive areas. Secondly, improvement in human capital, like investing in health, education, not only for men but also inclusive development for women as well. So basic education, all this can help India. We have a good demographic dividend. So with providing health, education, skills, etc., we can make use of this demographic dividend. So this is the second lesson for India. And thirdly, improving agricultural productivity. So we have seen that agriculture has been under stress because of the climate change. So what has to be done in order to overcome this issue? Irrigation should be provided, technological advancement must be provided, etc. So this is another solution. And fourthly, in order to tackle the problem of hyper-globalization backlash, India has to create a favorable external climate to sustain rapid growth. So what is meant by external climate to sustain rapid growth? The trade patterns should improve. Government policies must improve. The investment opportunities must improve. The manufacturing sector should improve. There must be ease of doing business. The trade environment itself should improve. So this can create a climate that can help in sustainable and also rapid growth for the economy. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my